Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal Connections radio show. I'm your host, Christina George, and tonight, man, got another great guest. We're going to have a great time tonight. A lot of people were wondering if we were going to have a show tonight, and it was like everybody knows I have been so sick for like the last couple weeks. Last week, I had to have surgery. Instead of getting better, I got worse. I've been back and forth to the hospital and in and out of the hospital since, including yesterday. So, wasn't sure that I was even make it to the show. Realized I didn't even click for the show to automatically post the other day. And so, yes, I was at like 4 or 5 in the morning putting it together. But I definitely always like, are you sure you don't want to cancel? Absolutely not. I am excited for tonight's guest. I hope that you all are too. As you come in, if you have any questions for our guest, make sure to leave them in the chat. You can also, this is streaming on multiple social media platforms. You can private message me any questions you have as well. All right. So tonight we have Brittany Barbieri, and many of you might recognize her. Over the years, she's done a few shows, including Unidentified with Demi Lovato on Peacock. Most recently, she worked with Osborne's Night of Terror season finale in Virginia City. Now, I am super excited to talk to her about that because, of course, as everybody knows, that's my favorite place to hang out so and investigate. So I'm interested to see what her experience experiences were out there because again, every time somebody goes out there, there's something going on. But a little bit more about Brittany. She's a paranormal investigator, ufologist, and cryptozoologist, just like me. She has been investigating these fields for over 20 years. Her mentor in ufology is author ufologist Donald Schmitt. And she leans on her friend, Professor Jeff Meldrum, and everybody should know him if it's anything about Sasquatch. She's currently investigating UFOs, UAP reports with her production partner Ben Hansen with Hypocenter Productions. She's also a ufology consultant for a new TV series, Station 211 and the Fifth Kind. She has a background in many different areas, from exotic animal training to professional photography, and the list goes on. Boy, it's going to have be an interesting show tonight. So, with that being said, we're going to bring on my guest. Hey, Brittany, how are you?
Exactly, Christina. How are you?
It's quite the bio, and it's like I love it because I've recently been doing a bunch of shows as well, and they always want your bio, and it's like there's just so much. It's a lot if you are just in one, if you just research one field,
Yeah.
but when you research everything, yeah, it's a lot. Like it's like you're trying to pick and choose what needs to go in there, what doesn't need to be in there, and then I was turned on to the AI, the chat GPT
Oh, yeah.
software, and I said
Yeah.
I needed a bio real quick, and I said, hey, give me a short bio, and I just gave my name and what I do, and a few minutes later, bam, I had one. But then as I'm hearing somebody, read it, it's like, man, it makes me sound really great.
Yeah, I know. I
Because
do love that.
you have an amazing bio and history,
Oh, thank
20
you.
plus years. I love that. I'm right there with you. Um, and I love the fact when I come across anybody that researches all the fields. Let's kind of talk about that because I know one thing for me, being a female in the fields, also I was a psychic medium, that was also kind of a thing. And obviously 20 years ago the fields, and still today, were pretty segregated from each other.
Yep.
So if the when I started my shows, people in the paranormal loved to hear this, but they didn't want to hear anything about UFOs or Bigfoot. And then
Oh,
if
yeah. No.
I started another show, and on there I'd be talking about alien stuff, and nobody from the paranormal, that all these people are like, oh, we don't want to hear anything paranormal. So it's very split, and again, very male dominated 20 years ago. Times have
Hmm.
changed. So let's talk about what kind of got you into the field and researching all these different fields.
The topic of like paranormal was never like a taboo topic in my home. So we were very like Irish rooted. So a lot of like Celtic background, folklore, Norse, Viking background, stuff like that. So whenever there was paranormal phenomena, we would all openly discuss it. It wasn't like, oh my God, we don't talk about ghosts in our home. Like that doesn't happen. Like that just wasn't it. And I grew up in Estes Park, Colorado, which is known for the Stanley Hotel, obviously the movie The Shining. And we'd go there for Christmas. That was what we did. I was allergic to chocolate, so they always give me hot strawberry milk with marshmallows, which was very thoughtful. And
Right. Okay.
so growing up there, legends of Sasquatch was, just poured through the woodwork. And then, hauntings was never it was always something up there. And, my brothers were always involved. Of the youngest of 7. And, from a very young age, I just always wanted to dive into it. And so I had my own experiences when I was very young. And I remember talking to my mom, my grandmother about it, my dad about it, and everybody was so like open to it. So it wasn't like we were all like, no, we don't talk about this. It's not real.
I
So
love that for you.
yeah. So like it spun for me there, but it wasn't like, so there was like obviously ghosts, and then it was Bigfoot, and then there was UFOs. Cause I was born in Tucson, Arizona, and out in the deserts, my folks would see stuff in the night sky that they couldn't explain that would like shoot all over the sky and then take off, And so the idea of life beyond our own was never like an issue to talk about. So it started in me very, very young. And then it skyrocketed. Because once you realize that there's more to it than just like somebody sees a ghost, you're like fascinated. There's so many branches to the tree of paranormal that you can't just stay on one limb. Like you can't.
Yeah, I love that because I agree. I mean, I always, from very, very young, knew I had, psychic abilities, but I also had seen UFOs since I was very, very young too. Only when I would move, I would only see them for one night. The very
Hmm.
first night I would move into somewhere new, but it for the longest time. Uh, and so again, you start to see the connections, and then the more that you start to research, the more you start to see the connections between them, and
Mm-hmm.
you start seeing that a lot of people who have paranormal stuff, when you just
Oh,
randomly
for sure.
start talking to them, they have seen UFOs, or they've
Yeah.
had thought they saw Bigfoot, or and the same thing with people who've been abducted. They've
Yeah.
had strange, paranormal stuff happen in their homes, or they've had sleep paralysis, or so many different things. And so when you start really asking people questions and interviewing them and hearing the similarities from witnesses in different fields, you're like, oh, okay, something's going. Now, are you starting to see from your side the fields being a little bit more accepting of all this is connected, or do you still feel like there's kind of a disconnect?
I think like the old school generation that's still involved in the paranormal, I think that they still separate it, because I have some friends in ufology that if you even bring up the topic, because again, I'll preference this, I don't believe that Bigfoot has any connection to extraterrestrial, though I study that. Like I will still look
Right.
into it, I study it, I hear those claims, and I'll research those claims of those sightings. But for me personally, I still think of Sasquatch as an actual primate that I'm dealing with versus an extraterrestrial being. But if I'm talking to old school individuals, they won't even look at the ancient astronaut theory. Like they won't even touch that. They won't
Okay.
talk about Sasquatch. They won't talk about ancient. It's very like, no, it is strictly scientific, XYZ, which is fine because that's their personal, how they've been in it since the 60s, 70s, 80s. But in the new wave, which I would say that happened in like the last 20 years, people started having a motion of like, wait a minute, we can actually incorporate this because this does make sense. Like Mothman, for instance, I brought this up in ufology because I said Mothman is listed under a cryptid. But if you
Right.
go based off the sighting and how it engaged and interacted, I would look at it more as an extraterrestrial sighting and not a cryptid sighting. So, But I can't bring that up in ufology because everybody's like, we don't met. What are you talking about? Just don't even, but it's like, but seriously though, there's a lot of connections here. And I don't understand how like ufology doesn't line up with the ghostly aspect of paranormal, because we talk so much about portals. We talk so much about time bending and time
Right.
loops. Why can't that function in with ghosts, in parallel universes?
Right.
So it does crack me up, but I do think in the last like 20 years, there's been a major shift, and I'm grateful for that, because I think that in some aspect, the paranormal field is vast and they all connect in weird veins. It's like a giant brain. All the veins are connecting. We just have to put the pieces together.
Well, I also start to see that there's a lot. I see the opinion shift as these things are brought into television. Unfortunately, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Like we could do 20 years of boots on the ground research and factual findings, and nobody will want to listen. But yet then somebody else will come out on TV and say, and then it's like, oh my gosh, everybody believes in Bigfoot. Now everybody wants to be Bigfoot researchers. Everybody's
Right.
looking up the sky for UFOs and believing it. I mean, I guess it's good because it gets the attention out there. So it is like, at least the information's out there. People are starting to do more research, I think.
Hmm.
And so with more things that are transpiring, more things that are connecting, and then for whatever reason, our brainwashed human brains, as soon as we see it on TV, it must be true. Like, forget
Right.
what anybody says. Same thing. I was just talking about this
So
on
true.
another show, um, with some of the MUFON people, and
Yeah.
everybody was with the government saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as aliens or UFOs. No such thing. No such thing." And then all of a sudden, now we have these congressional hearings, and and they said, and even if there was such a thing, like we could not, divulge that to the public because they couldn't handle it. And
Right.
then here, all the congressional people came out and made this big announcement, and everybody's like, yeah, okay, you're saying the same thing we've been saying for years. Not the reaction I don't think that they were expecting, but the reaction I wasn't expecting was that so many contactees and abductees were not happy about the hearings. They felt like they didn't get any recognition when they've been telling their stories all these years. And again,
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden somebody else comes out and says, oh, yep, it's true. And we're programmed to be like, oh, yes, oh, must be true. So,
Uh-huh.
what were your thoughts, on those?
The first hearing, I was like, here we go again. Just take a deep breath and prepare for nothing, because that's basically how these things go. There was a lot of pushback from, not from the ufology community, but from the UFO community. And there's a difference. Like in the ufology, it's a lot of the older school who have been investigating it as a scientific study. And then the ufology community is a little more open-minded to more levels of what this is, including abductees, on different levels of contact stages, from like Hynek's work and stuff. And so when the last hearing came this year with David Grush's statement, that kind of shifted things, because we have somebody who's worked in office with high rank credibility, clearances, and things like that, that's now coming out and coming forward, making very large statements, even though they were secondhand. He was in a position of high rank to where he was in contact with firsthand. And so I was kind of disappointed with some of the UFO community for looking down upon this as a nothing, because I'm like, did you hear what some of the things he said were the takeaways that he's saying under oath? This guy can't lie. He literally would be arrested. And so I I hearing everybody's claims, and of course we already knew what some of the claims were from Ryan Graves, because Ben and I, especially Ben, the reports we had been working on, we had passed over to him. So we had been in
Right.
talks in that respect with the pilot reporting. And then we had the other David on the other side, who had been talking for a very long time about these from the Navy aspect. And so I think it was really a large movement. We had 3 individuals under oath, and I think that the UFO community needed to see it for what it was at that point. But I think so many people were like, but Sean Kirkpatrick from from the all domain was like, there's nothing, there's no evidence, but if you backtrack it, the problem with Arrow that I have is that there's not enough, they don't know enough about their history to be up there talking about it. Because if they
Right.
did, the cases in the very first hearing, they would have been more prepared to answer, and they weren't. And so, there was, I think after that one with David Grush happened, people got really excited because they were like, finally, like the Congress is taking notice that we have money going into secret programs that they don't have any say over. So we know that there are black projects and secret programs happening in the Pentagon that nobody has any say over. And that really shouldn't be. And so I think what spooked people was the idea of biologics. And what is biologics?
Right.
What are these things? Are they saying that we have extraterrestrial? Well, here's the funny kicker back. So they tried to smear him after that. And of course, everybody's like, oh, we saw this smear campaign coming, and then the guy who writes it was like, no, this was all just innocent. And then on TV, he's like, well, no, I was, contacted by Intel to say this about him. And they gave me where to look. Okay, buddy. So it's a smear campaign. And then, and then what happens in Mexico? So it's like, well, crap. Now we've got them bringing out these alleged alien bodies that look like little ET, costume characters from
made out of chalk or something.
Yeah. It was cake, everybody. It was cake. Yeah. So then that happened, and everybody's like, so everything we've been pushing hard for just got knocked down. However, there was a lot of great stuff that happened at that hearing, but it all got shelved and basically toppled over because of the little Mexican alien bodies. But I think that in retrospect, the general public was more in the UFO community was more excited about this last hearing than the prior hearings. And now we're getting another new uptick in excitement because Grush was just on Joe Rogan and admitted a heck of a lot more stuff. And the questions I've been getting are, do you think this is their way of preparing for the other 40 firsthand individuals that are going to be coming out the first of the year to prepare in a way that they trust? So right now we have a majority of the public and people who weren't involved, but then got involved because they tried smearing him under PTSD and being an inactive soldier. I think people are more listening and more taken to David. And I think David Grush is honestly the best guy to bring this information out because people trust him. People like him. He's a likable, lovable guy, and they trust him.
Yeah.
So
I did feel that he was, very truthful, as to what he was speaking of or what he could speak about. But interesting enough, I was in a Reddit group, like probably a week or two after that. And there was a huge amount of people that also felt like this was all set up due to the fact that any other time that any major whistleblower comes out with any kind of information, they're either somehow imprisoned, they have die in a fiery crash, they have a heart attack, they disappear, something happens. Yet this person has, spilt like the major beans, and other than a smear campaign, everybody's kind of like, I mean, I guess if they tried to assassinate him, maybe people would believe in him a little more. It's kind of weird how people, think, but go figure.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, like after that, there was a lot of like misinformation act that was coming out. People also believe that this was a smoke and curtains for what was really going on within the actual like White House and all the other political issues that were happening. But, even during 2020, when we were all in lockdown and COVID, this was happening and there was televised things coming out. The Pentagon had their hearing in regards to UAP information and declassification of files, but we didn't hear about it, even though it was on the news because COVID took over. So it like really pushed a lot of stuff under the radar. But I do think, like, in my opinion, I think that they are at a crunch period where they have to get this information out. What exactly that reason is, I don't think anybody knows. That's why there's like a drove of theories. We've had individuals, and this falls under the conspiracy theory, come forward that have worked ex-CIA, ex-Pentagon officials, intelligence officers, and so forth that have said that the extraterrestrial that have been working with our planet and with us have given us a timeline. And this timeline had been extended. I guess this was supposed to happen like several times, and they keep pushing it out based on the fact that people weren't ready. And now it's come down to, if you don't expose and tell the people the truth about extraterrestrial life and our involvement on this planet, we are going to come out in the year 2027. So there's that theory where people are like, oh my God, that's why there's this giant push, this giant rush. That's why it's everywhere. That's why it's the topic. But I don't believe that. I think that there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot of groundbreaking stuff that's happening. And I think that they are losing control over the general public of what they can say to believe and what they can't believe anymore. And I think that because everybody has a smartphone device and a camera and they can't control everything anymore, social media can offer, I think they're starting to lose that traction. And there's so many personnel now in the military that have their own devices that can post it and then talk about it, and leaks happen really easily. And so I
Right.
think for them, and this is just my opinion, I'm not saying that this is 100%. I'm just based on what I have seen and researched and investigated in this, I just feel that they're finally saying we need to leak it out the best way possible and get it out the best way possible to prepare people, because there is going to come a time where we literally can't deny it anymore. And the truth is going to be exposed, but it needs to come from us so that we as the government still look like we have control. We know what we're doing. We've been in control of this for a long time. But I think what people want is to wake up tomorrow and have, one of the gentlemen from the Pentagon just come out and be like, hey, guess what? We lied about 47 and aliens are real. Hey, because that's not going to happen.
Right.
And
Right.
if you live in that world, you need to remove yourself from it. It's not gonna it has to happen subtly, and I'm gonna tell you, pay attention to your entertainment. That's how they're gonna get you.
Yeah.
Follow the
I
money. The trails always lead through media and entertainment, and that's where it's gonna happen through.
Now here's a question staying kind of on that topic, but so part of my psychic abilities, as well as I'm also an abductee, is precog dreams.
Mhm.
And so I'm given a lot of information. Started out when I was young, it was just like weather related incidents. As time went on and I got more connected to it, it showed me different things like 9/11, like all different things that were coming. Then it even morphed into false flags. And now we're at a place where I'm being shown that there is going to be like an alien craft that is going to show up. And I would say sooner than later. But I'm being told immediately to not believe it. It's not them. It's our government. It's definitely going to be like like a false alien invasion. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, well, I would never discredit anything that you're feeling or sensing ever. Um, I think for me, I wouldn't put it past. I'll just say that. Put it past the government. If they feel that they're losing control of their public, I would not put it past them to create an illusion of something to show that they are still in control of it, if that makes sense.
Oh no, absolutely. And I feel like it's going to be, so many people are losing confidence on our government
Right.
and we don't believe in our government. So what better to do is slowly as this information is leaked out and then all of a sudden something major shows up. That is going to scare a lot of people. Let's just put it mildly. If something showed up, whether it's holographic, whether it's back engineered, whatever it is, it's ours. It would scare the hell out of a lot of people. And at that point, where are they going to go to feel safe and for direction is right back to our government that we don't trust because we feel like they're going to be the only
Right.
ones to trust us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so as sick and twisted as it is, it absolutely, because when I'm like being shown this stuff, and I, I will say, like my precog, they are very, very accurate. So, this is the first time I've got anything like this. But my abduction also has to do with my lab. So sometimes I don't always trust what I'm being shown because I feel like sometimes I'm being manipulated
Right.
with information. So
Right.
I never really know.
Right.
But as I'm being shown this, I'm like, well, it absolutely could be plausible because
Oh, for
again,
sure.
in a twisted way, that would absolutely bring a lot of people back to having to rely and
Right.
trust the government, for what to do next.
Right. No, I agree. I mean, the other thing that I think would bend the people on their head, and it is a theory, and this is something that's been theorized for a long time, but now Ross Coulthart was in a recent interview, and I know Lou Elizondo also, I think, was also had heard some information on this, and so he was answering in regards to it, but and he hasn't stated who because he's trying to get enough research on it and backing on it because he likes to back a lot of his, and he's a really good journalist, so he likes to really just get some information, but again, he's also a journalist, so he gets a report and he reports on it. Whether it is,
Right,
it is like George Knapp, who I admire for that because it
right.
was like, look, this may or may not be real, but this is my job. I'm an in the field journalist and I report the news.
That's right.
Um, so what he was basically alluding to is the fact that, and I actually posted this on another co-hosting platform with two of my friends in ufology. It's the Disclosure Ladies. I posted this so you guys can check that out on Instagram.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it's a clip with Ross Coulthart saying that the information he is getting is that what we are seeing and what we are dealing with is actually not extraterrestrials at all, that it is us from the future. So,
I definitely could see that.
yeah, and so for me, it was very eye-opening and exciting, but that if you work in this field, it's exciting. If you are not from
Right.
this field and you oh, hi, Steph,
Hey, man.
and you don't follow this at all, and you're stuck kind of in your own box, hearing because time travel to most is not real. It's not possible. That can't happen. These types of events don't take place. Ghosts aren't real. Aliens aren't real. They live in a world where none of these things are real. And that's okay. But for you, your world's going to be turned upside down when you realize that that's not true. Because that's the problem
Right,
I have is that has been taught so forward and backwards that these things aren't real. So that anybody that has these abilities or anybody that experiences these things or sees these things, you guys are just clinically insane. And that's not it at all. Thank God we've moved past that nowadays. Um, but if you think for a second, and it wasn't saying that extraterrestrial life isn't real either. It was saying that some of the things that we're seeing is actually us from the future interacting with it now. And then if you apply that to a lot of the cases and the historical stuff in regards to extraterrestrial involvement on our planet, it would make a lot of sense. It's kind of like, well, I could see how that works. And for me, because I don't believe that we live in a linear line, I'm very much on the Einstein theory of bending of time and space. I believe in that theory. I believe that we could come back on ourselves if
yeah,
we have mastered it. So, yeah, it wouldn't upset me at all. I'd be like, this is so cool. When can I talk to him?
yeah.
What
Oh,
happens next?
yeah. Can we set them up for an interview?
Exactly.
ASAP?
When is that podcast happening? I'd like to be on that show.
Right, right. Boy, wouldn't that be the interview of the century?
I'd be like, hold on a second. I have
Right?
so many questions. Roswell.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're gonna have to have
Roswell.
like a 5 hour, show, even if that would work. All right, let's switch from ufology. Let's switch to the paranormal. And you know, very interesting. I saw that you were recently up in Virginia City, Nevada, with a bunch of my good friends.
Yes.
And you were up there investigating. And I want to say a big shout out to Michelle LeBaron. Love you, Mish, if you see this later. But yeah, I've been
You need to.
investigating with Michelle and been friends with her forever. So, Stephanie, all of them, a great group of people up there that I investigate with. Absolutely love them. And unless you go to Virginia City, it is very hard to really put in words that
Yeah.
town. And so I want to kind of hear, your experience right here with there, what you thought.
I loved it. I want to go back. What's funny is that Virginia City has been on my bucket list for years, like for years. And
Really?
yeah, like I've been obsessed with the history of Virginia City. I mean, who didn't? It's Bonanza. Come on. Like, but I'm from out west though, being born in Tucson, Arizona. I mean, these are things that, we grew up talking about. And I'm a Western girl, I'm a Western writer. Like, so I was always, so when I got the call, I was like, did you just say Virginia City? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, done. I don't even, yep. They're like, so you know about, I'm like, of course I know about, who doesn't know about Virginia City? I just
Right?
haven't been. It's on my bucket list. I was very lucky, and I say blessed because I was there for an entire week. I flew in the day everybody arrived, and I left the day everybody left. Well, some of us got stranded, but I left because we had a bad blizzard, like horrible blizzard. Horrible.
Oh yeah. Oh, no, you don't have to tell me anything. Usually after October until like March, at the end of March when my birthday is.
Yeah.
Oh, I love all my friends up there, but
Woo.
yeah, I'm not going to see anybody because I went up and investigated one time and it was so cold. I
Oh my
looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I must have had like 15 layers. I had a big old puff jacket on, gloves,
God.
hat, boots, everything, thermal underwear, and I was still, I am a true example of a Cali girl because
Yeah.
I could not handle cold. And then the snow, like I think we like got like a snow flurry, they said overnight, maybe got like an inch. And I was like panicked, thinking we were gonna get snowed in, but
Yeah.
but just that quick, yeah, you can get snowed in. And especially where that is, there's only two ways, in and out of there. And
Mm-hmm.
neither one of them, if there's a lot of snow, do you really, I don't think you want to try to take the grade over to Reno. And it is so
Uh-uh.
slippery and icy on those mountain roads and so
Nope.
curvy. But definitely when you're in there, it's got its own little vibe. I mean, as soon as
Oh, it
you
does.
come down that street into town, either way, it's like the energy just immediately changes. Was it like
Yeah.
that for you as well?
Oh, yeah, immediately. Immediately it was. But it was strange to me, because a lot of the work that I did, so I did get to investigate with them in Piper's Opera House as well as the Washoe Club. So it was just time restraints,
Right.
of edits, for TV, unfortunately. That's just kinda how it goes. But I know that they were very excited about our experiment at Washoe, so that was what they really wanted to share because what was happening in Piper's was truly just hours. We're not talking 30 minutes, which is common. Like, you're investigating, you're using the flashlight technique. You're lucky if you can get a solid 30-minute communication on a flashlight. You'll get
Right.
intermittent spits of communication as the frequency changes. We literally sat there and had 4 hours
Oh
of
wow.
direct communication via flashlight, like on cue. You asked, it answered. It was the most ridiculous, bizarre. I don't even know how to explain it. I was just like, this is incredible to me. But yeah, like, so during the day when we'd be doing like presets, and then of course they would be interviewing, like Jack and Kelly would be doing their interview that I wasn't needed for during the day.
Right.
I was like, guys, I gotta go walk around. Like, because I like helping behind the scenes too on sets, because I don't like just sitting around doing nothing. Like, I'm not that talent. I'm always very
Right. Right.
hands-on. I'm just not that I'm not like, oh, excuse me, I'll be in my trailer. Like, I'm
Right.
not that person. I'm
Right.
like, tell me where I can get an investigation in before I have to work. Like, where can I go find a ghost?
So you're not like, where's my robe in my embroidered chair?
No, hell no. No, I'm never that way. And it's always really funny because whenever I'm on a set, I'm always like, hey, how can I help you guys? Can I help set up equipment? They're like, no, you're talent. Go sit down. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to lift a finger. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. That's BS stuff. Like, no, tell me what I can do. Like, I want to help. So I would walk around during the day because I just couldn't sit still. And I like started meeting people and like getting engaged with like the people of Virginia City. And I came in good friends with another lady at one of the stores over there with her twin sister. And her name's Connie, and just
Yep.
wonderful
I know.
people.
Mhm.
Yeah, like just wonderful people that I just fell in love with and was just talking to you about the city because there is a major energy frequency shift the moment you come into town. Like, you cannot separate yourself from it. Like, everywhere
Yeah.
you go, you're just like, it's like any second you just know you're just going to be like, your eyes are going to open, you're just going to see a cowboy and he's just going to walk right past you. Like, that's just the
Right.
vibe you get.
Yes.
It's the weirdest
Yes.
feeling.
Yes. And everybody there, I mean, they're very friendly, and just about any local that you chat with has a story to tell you.
Yeah.
Just their own stuff. I mean, it's funny because there are, the Mackey Mansion and the Piper
Yep.
Opera House, Washoe, but there are so many other. I have investigated throughout that whole town, and even just businesses that I've walked in. I'm like, oh, I mean, being a psychic medium is a little different. I'm walking in, and they're like, oh yeah, the haunted place is up the street, and I'm like, oh, that's what you think,
Yeah.
You got some ghosts here too, my friend. And so yeah, so I walking around, it's like there's stuff all over, and sometimes
Yeah.
I can see that like they're out. It's like they're living in a parallel universe, and they're just out shopping and doing things amongst themselves as if it was that's just what they were doing. So it's very interesting for me to go up there because there is so much going on. I'm trying to differentiate between spirits and real people and the drunk people. And, so it's like all the haunted
You mean
locations,
from the bucket of blood? They're just like, they don't know which way is up.
any of them, as I'm saying,
I know.
I've donated my bra to the, what's the one that you go downstairs? Like, after 6 o'clock, that's all that's really open is,
Yeah.
the bars and a couple of places. So, but
Yeah.
all of those bars, again, if you walk in, they all have stuff going on in them.
Yeah. I honestly was like, I was really taken back because they like when I was there, I did so much research. I was asking people because I'm really big on minerals and how minerals can affect frequencies and kind of the atmosphere around us. And so I was like asking people like what aside from what we know of gold and silver, what other things are up here? What other types of minerals and things like that? But when these things are powered by electricity or water, and water holds a lot of power, you're literally sitting on a battery. And so
Right.
halfway through up there, I was telling Stephanie actually and Kimmy and Meech and Drew and all them, I was like, guys, like I I have a theory that I have been applied to my work for like 11 years. And I have only found one other place that I believe holds steady to that theory, which is Gettysburg. And then I was like, but now my mind has completely, I am just so excited because I think Virginia City really holds the key to that. And when you have that kind of natural energy under any kind of location, you are like literally putting off its own frequency every couple of seconds. Like it's just boom,
Oh,
boom, boom,
yeah.
boom, boom. And Virginia City has it. Like when I was talking to Washoe Nick, I was just like, so tell me about your buildings, and like he was telling me across the street, I love freaking Nick. He's amazing. And the one thing aside from like it being like the most incredible place to investigate were the people. Like I don't
Oh, yeah.
care. I've been to so many places, so many like different types of old towns. And the only other place that I found this kind of hospitality, this much kindness, was in Ireland, in the middle
Oh,
of
okay.
Killarney. And I don't find that anywhere else. Like it's very rare to find a small town with people that are just that one really open-minded to talk about the paranormal so
Oh, yeah.
nonchalantly, and they don't look at you as crazy. And then also just so warm and welcoming. Like, where are you staying tonight? What are you doing? Do you want to come hang out? Yeah, right. So, like
Right.
it's like it was just such a cool feeling because you felt safe, you felt accepted, you felt wanted. So I could when I started talking to people and they're like, I don't know why. I felt like maybe from another life I was here. And I'm like, no, I know what you're feeling. It's the feeling of acceptance. It's the feeling of finding your place. And that's
That's right.
because the people there make you feel that way. It's not from a past
Absolutely.
life experience. It's the people. Like it's just a loving embracement up there that I'm like, hell yeah, I'm going to buy a house up here next week, honey. We're buying a house. And because,
Right.
like I'm like, hell yeah, I'll work during the day, investigate at night. Cause like that'd be a dream for me. But like, and you've got history all around you. So like, if you love history and you love being accepted and you love just being with somebody who knows you and cares about you and would like take their gun to fight for you, like that's the
Right.
place to go.
And you know what? And I've seen people,
Amazing.
locals there that visitors from out of town have come, or maybe come from Reno, and they're drunk and they're trying to start a fight, and they'll jump right in and make sure everything is good. Again, I completely understand what you're feeling, because it's the same thing. And Steph and Drew and even Kim. Well, Kimmy lives up there now, but we're
Yeah.
all from California. And it's
Right.
like you go up there, and it's like it's like home, even though it's not
Yeah.
our home. And even though we all live close to each other here in California, where do we all meet up at all the time? Virginia
Virginia
City.
City.
Go figure. Like
So
we had it
depressed.
right before Halloween. We all decided last minute, oh, we're going to Virginia City to hang out for 4 days.
Yeah.
So we went up there. So yeah, it is. It is definitely like a whole different vibe up there, and the people up there. Again, it draws you back. That energy draws you back. Because as soon as I leave, I'm like, I am drained from that town. I have a
Yeah.
paranormal hangover like you would not believe. Every single time I
That's
leave.
real.
Maybe it's an alcohol and paranormal hangover, a little bit of both, probably. But I'm be just wiped out. And then, but immediately,
Yeah.
as soon as I'm thinking, oh, I need to get away for the weekend, first thing that comes to mind is, oh, I'm only 3 hours away. Let me hop on in the car and head on up. So, and
Yeah.
again, everybody else that's in our group is like that too. So more than likely, we might all run into each other up there, not even have planned it, because everybody just decides like, oh, okay, got a
That's
weekend,
where I want
let's
to go.
head up to BC. So, but yeah, if it wasn't for the snow, I absolutely would live up there. But I would be a hermit for like 6 months of the year. I would never leave the house.
I
Like
know.
I couldn't even investigate in that cold. It was it
Oh
no,
my God.
I'm not made for it. Well, you probably too, but being raised in Arizona, like we're not made for
But I was
the
in Colorado though. I grew up
well,
a
you in
good
Colorado.
portion of Estes Park. Yeah, way up in the Rockies where we had really good. I mean, blizzards were nothing to us. Like I'm used to blizzards.
I'm supposed to
Yeah.
go there too. My daughter just moved up there. She's in Aurora actually.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so
Oh, it's
she
beautiful there.
wanted me to move there. Before I decided to move back to Sacramento. And she's like, yeah, we're gonna go to Estes. And I'm like, okay, yeah, and everything. But then I started thinking about it again too. And I'm like, yeah, again, snow. Like I'm a California, I don't know how to drive in snow. I don't know how to live in snow. And I definitely
Well,
it's way too cold for me.
yeah, I mean, the only nice thing, like that's the thing I love about like Western snow is way different than Northern snow. Northern snow is wet and cold and it hurts. And then when you see like out west snow, like people don't even think that that's a thing, but it's a thing. It's like dry and powdery. But what I
Um,
experienced at Virginia City, I was like, this is like wet cold. This is not
oh,
Colorado snow. Colorado snow was great because it was compact. It like wasn't wet. You could wear a sweatshirt and shorts. That's the kind of snow it was. Like it's not
oh
it's
wow.
just not like that. Even the blizzards were not it wasn't terrible. At least I don't remember them being terrible. I mean they were heavy, but I mean like when we were investigating Washoe, the windows, half the windows are
Yeah,
broken. Snow's coming in
right,
on the
right,
floor.
right.
Freaking -9 when we were investigating into the wee hours of the morning. And we're all downstairs trying to put our feet next to floor heaters because there's no heating and air conditioning in that building. And we're all like, the show must go on. But we were all so
Girl.
heated into the investigation, we didn't care. But it was like, -9 and the blizzard came in, closed the roads. Poor Chip Coffee. He had to get back down to the hotel in the blizzard. Like they almost died on a curve, like it
Yeah,
was
I
just
was
like
gonna say.
what the heck? I know we all hugged each other. We're like, we're gonna say prayers for Chip tonight as he makes his way back down to because the blizzard was coming in, and if he hadn't left when he did, the roads were officially closed. Like what we were filming, they closed
You'd
the
have just been
roads.
stuck on that
Yeah,
road. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I have footage. I don't know if I posted or not. I don't know if I did, but I have film of like they were clearing the side roads like between like the side streets, and like here comes this big clear, and we're like, wait, come down this way, come in front of
Yeah.
Washoe. But it wasn't. It was just like feet and feet snow just kept piling up. Like, nope, that's fine. We'll just stay here at
Yeah.
Washoe all night. It's fine.
And like you said, it is very, and especially at the Washoe, because it's like the back stairs get icy, so they don't want you to go in there.
Yep.
Then you got to go through the front, and those stairs are steep as hell. So you gotta like go, like, and it's just really just about everything. There, Silver Queen, Um, uh, Even at the Union, all of those staircases are
Right.
like the Tahoe House, all of them. It's like, oh, if you're going to stay at those hotels, don't plan on leaving and coming back a whole lot of times. I've never had so much exercise than having to walk up and down the stairs of the Silver Queen a billion times in one day.
That's so funny. I will tell
Now,
you, I almost ate it on the Washoe stairs,
uh, as
like
well
twice.
as so many others. Yes.
Like, I was like, no, nobody's getting pushed around here. You just freaking falling. That's what it is. I'm like, no ghost is pushing you. They're just like, oh, there goes another one. We warned you
You
those
gotta,
stairs were
yeah,
really steep.
you
Jeez.
gotta wonder on some of those when people are like, "Oh yeah, we were pushing." I'm like, it could just be
No.
that they're steep as hell.
Yeah.
So it's troublesome going up and down them just in general. So it doesn't surprise
It's
me.
like
No,
it's the go-to if
investigating
you're
the walk,
embarrassed for falling.
right, right, and then everybody's gonna play
A
it off. Oh, I
ghost.
think I was pushed.
Exactly. Wasn't a
Now,
ghost
when you
Becky.
investigated at the Washoe, I heard you talk about over at the Opera House, Piper's Opera House, the stuff that you were getting there. What kind of evidence did you get at the Washoe?
Whoa, Washoe took it up like 10 notches for us.
Always, it's
10
that's kind of a
notches.
given there.
I liked Piper's, don't get me wrong. I think Piper's was cool, but I think Piper's is a hit or miss situation personally for me. I think we got lucky on the night we were there. I think whatever was there was very interested in Kelly and really wanted to talk to her because a lot of the energy and answers came from Kelly, and she was drained like nothing else. Like none of us were really feeling it like Kelly was. But when we went over to Washoe, it everything changed. Like everything changed. Like if you watch the episode, you'll see Kelly and Jack in the crypt, and they were like, somebody's walking upstairs. Now, mind you, the producers and I had been up earlier setting up stuff. The upstairs is the most active place.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh, is it the sun's down? Time to come alive. Like it
Yeah.
just there was activity during the day too, because when we were there for chip sweep, we were there listening in, and all of a sudden so when you're coming up the stairs, from the bottom, from like street level, you're coming up the first set of stairs, the second floor. There's you turn the corner and you come down the hallway to the first two rooms that are behind you.
Right.
So we're watching or whatever, and like the one cameraman, the two producers, myself, Greta, who's with Chip. Anyway, we're sitting there, and all of a sudden we're like, "Do you guys hear that?" And it was literally above us was somebody moving on the second floor. It sounded like somebody was moving furniture. So during their sweep, like Chip was like, "Do you guys hear that?" And I don't know if it was in the cut or not, but like they stopped and like were radioing down. Is anybody upstairs? We're like, "No." Like you guys are upstairs by yourself, but we could hear it. Like we're all just sitting there, and you could hear it dragging and like people walking and dragging, and it sounded like a big dresser being moved around a room. And we're like, "There's nobody freaking up there." And then I had brought a television for a looping experiment because I wanted to try. It's a very old technique, and I really wanted to try it up there. However, thanks to our cold weather and the blizzard, it zapped the TV, and the TV is still in the Washoe. So if you see it in the ballroom,
I don't know where it put. Okay,
you're welcome. And the poor guys had to lift that thing up there.
I'll take a picture and send it to you next time I'm up there.
Yeah, please do. Drew did, and I was like, "Yeah, you're welcome." It doesn't work, but I enjoy the TV. But yeah, so we brought that up there anyway. We literally in the ballroom, we weren't up there but longer than first 5 minutes. And the producer and I are sitting up there because I wanted to make sure that all my stuff was ready to go for all the experiments on that respect, because you like to prepare when you're filming. And we heard like a music playing, but it was like an old-fashioned music playing inside the ballroom. It came, you could hear it as clear as day, and then it like drifted away. We were followed by somebody in heels, was following behind us, and then we stopped and we're looking at each other, and literally right between our faces, somebody was like, "Hello," right between our like loud, disembodied, completely like right there. It was so active that I was like, at one point I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need a break from going up there. Like there's so much like, and up in Scotty's room, forget it. Like constant communication. At one point we were setting up the trip, the wire, what's the new, it's a new product and I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, EMF, it's the EMF reader cord thingy. I can't think of the name of it right now.
Okay.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
We were placed it on the stairs and my producer friend is upstairs and she's like, "Oh, forget that." And she comes running down the stairs and literally on the cameras you can hear it sound like two individuals fighting in that room, in Scotty's room. It was crazy. Like it was nonstop. Like it was constant. The activity was constant, but as far as the theory went, man, nothing played greater than with the cue ball experiment. Like it was the most incredible moment of everything for me with that. That was exciting.
That is so cool. So are you, looking to go back? I'm sure I already know this answer because anybody who goes up there once, it's like they can never. It's funny because my family or my grandfather was a very high-ranking clamper in Northern California. And so my whole childhood, I always heard about Virginia City because that's where they did the initiations. That's where the clubhouse was. So they spent all their time up there. I never went up there. Now I got to see secret photos of initiations that my grandfather had like stowed, away in boxes and stuff like that, but I never knew. And then I found out I had family up there. I had a cousin, my wife, his wife, their kids all up there. My aunt moved up there. So I decided just, one day to go up there. And now it's like, oh my God, like I should have been up there all these years. Like, look at everything that I've missed because again, it's like every weekend, it's just like, let me look at the weather and see if I can still make it up and back without getting snowed in, because I'll go up just to like the last minute. And then same thing when we went up for St. Patrick's Day, and mine and my friend that owns the Union Brewery, our birthdays are in the same week. And when we went up there, it was still snowing, but we were just so gung ho that we wanted to go celebrate up there that we chanced it. She got somebody to drive us up there. We were like sliding all over the place. It was like the scariest ride up there ever. So yeah, it has to be clear roads for me. And I have, if there's even a chance that there's going to be snow, I'm not even going because I know that the weather up there can change. And I mean, a great place to be snowed in at. But on the other hand,
if you're an investigator.
Yeah, right. Well, so what do you have coming up? Any good locations? Anything?
At the moment, no, I'll probably be going back to the Ma Barker house here in Florida, which is known for the largest shootout in FBI history. So, I have gone there before. Very interesting location, very active location. I can just tell you that it plays back on itself a lot. The trauma there that happened there plays back on itself a lot. And, I don't really think that, they've really fully accepted that yet. You know what I mean? Like the building itself is very traumatic. There's still blood on the floors, in the walls, in the closet where Ma died. The blood's still there. You can still see it under a black light. And in parts of the wood, you can still actually see the red. Bullet holes still are through the whole house. You can see the entire thing. And they're making it into a museum. But it's not like we know the people that are actually taking care of the Ma Barker house. So, myself, my brother, who's also an investigator with me, through our little group that we do stuff with, because he doesn't really utilize a lot of tools. He's very much like a sensitive to things and can see things, and it just is different for him as well as me. But for me, things play in my head like a movie, so I kind of see what happens in places prior, not current, but like prior.
Right.
And so we just have a really good time going in and just trying to investigate the location. So we're probably going to be going back. So we have another person that wants to go, has wanted to go for a very long time. And we'll probably take them back privately just to let them experience it, for what it is.
Nice.
But during the holidays, I kind of slow down a lot as far as investigating locations, just because it gets a little hectic unless I'm asked to come to a location. Most of my work during the holidays is emails, phone calls, videos, pictures. I need information. I need help, that type of stuff. But as far as that goes, no, there won't be any investigation locations unless one pops up near me, or I go in search of one. And then as far as film and television goes, I've got the Station 211 and The Fifth Kind. We are currently working on The Fifth Kind, which is going to be a TV series. And the fun, cool part of that is that I am going to be in that series, not just as a consultant, but one of the leads will be playing me as me. It sounds
Oh,
weird.
nice.
Yeah, so she'll actually be playing me in a non-reality TV series as me. It's very weird. It's just bizarre to have that in the back of your head that somebody's actually playing you in your investigative work. It's very weird. Um
Yeah.
so
Interesting, huh?
yeah, it's very I'm like it's still pondering. So I do that, and then daily I'm handling all of my handles, which is Brit Investigates, which is my work related Instagram account that I just post work related stuff only. Appearances, things like that. And then I co-host with my two other friends, Carolina and Priscilla, on the Disclosure Ladies. That is strictly under the Disclosure Team belt. It's a branch off because I really wanted to push for a platform for women in the ufology to have a
Love
place
that.
to talk, yeah, and grow and absolutely grow. At the beginning of the year, we're going to be doing a podcast. So, Christina, I will be bringing you on.
Oh.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we'll that'll be coming too. But you can find that too on Instagram. That's the one we're most active on at the moment because we're trying to. It's a lot to try and branch out on everything. So to be on Threads, Twitter, Instagram, it's a lot. So
Oh, I know. Just trying to promote just the show. I have two different shows. I have this one, and then I have Top Secret News, and just doing those two and the promotions and it being out on all different social media platforms. And then not all of my aggregator software will include all of them. So then I have to go and promote on those one specific
yeah.
sites separately. And yeah, it's a lot of work. So on top of investigating and just your regular life in general. So, big, high five to you. You're doing it, girl.
Thank you.
I love to
It
I love to see that kind of stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely it's fun. I like to stay busy. I like to stay challenged, obviously. From a very young age. I just once I graduated high school, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Let's go do this. Let's get stuff done.
Let's
And
go. That's right.
yeah, anything that I wanted to do or thought I could do, I just didn't let anybody tell me I couldn't do it. So I did it. That kind of thing. And
Yeah.
no matter what I did, paranormal always brought me back. Even in film and television, like working on Vampire Diaries, there were numerous times like I would get pulled aside and there'd be a conversation happening about paranormal and they'd be like, Brittany, I know this sounds so weird, but do you believe in the paranormal? We really want to ask your opinion on something. And I'm like, oh my God, how does this happen to me everywhere I go? Like servers, people at Publix, like it doesn't matter where I go. People just randomly ask me questions. So I'm glad that finally my fate into the field brought me back where I belong because, I never left it. I was just doing it as a hobby on the side as a secret thing outside of my
Right.
other careers that I was doing at the time. So it's nice to
Right.
make this my front and center career that I love, but I've been blessed to do so, being a mom of two and a stay-at-home mom at that. A lot of my work I'm allowed to do remotely from
Right.
home. And man, that's the best part of it. But I incorporate my kids. So like my personal handle, if anybody wants to follow me on there, please do. I support the follow. My personal handle is the Paranormal Mama. And that's where I showcase me balancing my home life, me being a mom, but also the field. And I get slack for being a parent, introducing the paranormal to my kids, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's who I am. Like, it's you don't have to follow me. You don't like it, but my son is very intuitive, and I embrace that. And so, I know that both my kids have certain gifts, and I love it. And I don't want my kids to fear the paranormal because I didn't
Right.
grow up fearing it, and I think that's what helped me around me as an adult for this type of information that's coming down the pipe. I didn't take things so like offensive and abrasive. I mean, we were Catholic Christian. It still didn't affect how I grew up. It didn't affect it at
Yeah.
all. It actually made sense in a lot of ways. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
like,
I love your story because I grew up in an Italian Catholic family as well, and it was never talked about. and it was,
Oh, wow,
we are
yeah.
told that nothing, this was all BS or imaginary friends, or stop talking about this stuff. I get in trouble with the nuns and the priests, because we had them at our house every weekend, after
Yeah.
church for dinner. And so it was a very different thing. But I'll tell you that when I got into, the paranormal over 20 years ago publicly, um, the first thing I started doing was mentoring kids and teenagers with psychic abilities, because I felt like, man, if I would have only had somebody like me to teach me some of these things that I didn't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
attachments, I got all kinds of things because I didn't know what was going on. Nobody taught me, nobody could give me answer any of my questions. So I used to at the beginning, I'd say, oh, I was completely against investigators taking their kids with them to investigate because I had such a bad experience not knowing things. um, Now, 20 years later, I see things completely different, and mentoring kids and seeing what a positive thing, because there's more than not children who are experiencing,
Oh, yeah.
are the paranormal, whether it be through abilities or whatever it is. I mean, these doors are wide open with kids now. So much better, because we're inherently afraid from human nature of what we don't understand. So if
Yep.
we have those
100%.
answers, then that fear factor takes it all away. And it's no different teaching your kids as if we're getting taught as adults how to be good investigators and safe investigators. So I think that, yeah, if for people who really, have children, I think, and that are in the field, I think that they should be open. I think it should be something. I can remember my kids at the beginning, they were scared, and they'd say, look, my friends are coming over today, Mom. Please do not mention any of this paranormal ghost stuff, okay? And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, I understood, because as soon as kids would find out that, I had abilities, immediately they're freaked out. So they didn't talk to me anymore, or their parents forbid them to talk to me. So I got it. So I'm like, okay, I won't. As soon as my kids like turned 18 and it got all over TV,
Yeah.
now it's like every single one of my kids, it's like, hey, Mom, yeah, so and so, my friend, has some weird stuff going on in the house. Do you think that you could go and check it out? Oh,
Yep.
now it's the topic of the day when you guys as friends come over. Now, right? How the times have
Now it's
changed.
cool. Yeah.
Times have
Exactly.
turned. But
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And again, it's the more information the kids, understand, that fear factor does go away. And even
For
though
sure.
there are some scary things that, we may encounter and sometimes do encounter in the paranormal, the best way you can do it is to know what you're doing and at least have some kind of direction and some kind of support. So again, I applaud you for everything that you're doing. Love to see other women in the field out there, with similar mindsets. So I love that for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's nice to hear another mom that feels the same way. Like, if the
Oh,
paranormal
yeah.
mama ever makes a podcast, we will definitely be co-hosting talking about that stuff. I'm telling you.
Definitely will, yeah.
Yeah.
4 kids, 3 grandkids, and yeah, and all of my kids, and even my middle grandson, very, 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 very too. Like I said, it's like the floodgates with kids now. It's like they're seeing things, and when they come, it's like, oh yeah, you're seeing this. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's see.
Yeah.
Uh, So it's a much different feel for sure.
Yeah,
All right. Oh,
it's also like and real quick, it's like a different time, too,
yes,
because like when kids are smaller, they're so open. Our
yes,
brains are very open. We see black and white. Like if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not. And so many
correct.
times we have been told, and not me, I wasn't raised that way, but in general, we've been told to, don't, that's not real, that's not real, that's not it, that's not it. Like it's fake, it's fake, it's fake. Like it's not, it's all imaginary, it's all pretend. And so we're given through history like these blinders and built-in blockers, because that's what's
Right,
telling us to block this off to fit into society, to be normal. Where I'm like,
right,
what's
right.
normal? um so I'm like, I don't want my kids to be that way. I like my kids to be open-minded. I like my kids to
Understood.
be accepting and not fear the paranormal. I think it's so funny, my kids fear Elf on the Shelf, okay,
Right.
but they do not fear the idea of a ghost.
Yeah,
So I'm doing something right. It's like, yeah,
absolutely.
he's gonna go back and tell the jolly old man that you ain't doing something right. They're like, "Oh my god, don't send Krampus," and then it's like,
Right.
"Oh, but mom, I think there's a ghost in my room." "Oh, okay, well, let me come talk to him." Like, it's like they don't it's just not, and I love that. It should be that way. I'm sorry, it just should be that way. There should be an open
I
communication and
agree.
understanding. It's like,
I
I'm so for it.
absolutely agree with that as well. Oh, I wish we had more time because I could just talk to you forever and ever. I think that I'd also, if you don't mind, I'd love to invite you on. After we get off, I'll send you some dates. But I'd love to have you on Top Secret News as well. Really delve into the UFO topic and Bigfoot topics because
Sure.
that's. I'd love to have you over there. I know that my listening audience would love you too from that side. So,
Wow,
um,
yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, anytime, anytime.
all right, I will get you some dates over. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are out of time, but I will be back next week. Make sure to join me next week. I have Michael De La China, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I sure do. So yeah, we've got some great guests coming up. I have Ryan Freakling after that. Um, so yeah, we've got a lot of people coming. Obviously on Christmas Eve, and I'm sorry, yeah, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, I will not be doing the show. So, other than that, you can catch Top Secret News. That show will be going on as well. Only we'll just miss those two dates for the show. That being said, I will see everybody next week. Have a great week this week, and thank you as always for tuning in. Please make sure to share, and make sure to go check out my guest sites. Give her a subscribe, like,
Like, follow, whatever.
follow, whatever you'd like to do. But yeah, check out what she's done. You'd be amazed at how much stuff is out there with her. All right, and definitely check out the Virginia City episode. So that's with Kelly and Jack. That had to be great, just in its own. And then being able to investigate a great location with great people, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you next week. Have a great week, and I will see you then. Good night.